We talk about some of the other observations we did not get to on Monday from over the weekend with the Charlotte Hornets. Take a look at some of the other details about the CBA and talk about all of it with David Walker today on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
We're Locked On Hornets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
In a minute, cuz we live.
It's Locked On Hornets. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free. We're available anywhere you get your podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. You can download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We appreciate David for making his weekly appearance. The nickname today is, drumroll, Crown Prince of the Colorway. Yeah, we're adding more names to it. The nicknames are not dead, as we've had a conversation off air. They are very alive for David Walker. The nicknames are very here, and that is Doug Branson. You can find his work on his substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com.
David, very quickly, what's your favorite colorway of all time? Very quickly. Favorite colorway all time.
Favorite colorway of all time? Well, I guess I would go fire red. That's fire red threes are my favorite of all time. But, so there you go. Fire red.
The Crown Prince gives his definitive answer on favorite colorways of all time. Let's get to some of the things we did not get to over the weekend by talking about Svi Mykhailiuk, what he has been doing here recently. Woo! A leading subject on Locked On Hornets because, well, those are just the times, folks. Those are the times we bring on people to help us talk about SviP. He's been driving to the paint like an SviP, if you ask me, what he's been doing here. 46 points from the field into the 16 games he's played with the Hornets. He's shooting over 45% from three. He went for a career-high 26 points in this last outing against Toronto. So he's been playing well. I don't know how much we're going to have the future conversation with Svi, but David, we can just basically shed some praise on him here if you want to. How surprised have you been where he was just kind of considered a throw-in, salary matcher, here's a player, we're giving Jalen McDaniels away, whatever. The real asset was the pick that you got, the second-round pick, but what have you made of Svi's performance?
Gotta love that second-round pick, baby.
He's done a lot of good things for us this year.
You have to love it. You have to. Now
it's yours. You have to own it and care for it. No, I mean, the thing I like about Svi is he plays with confidence. His appearances are not always smooth from start to finish, right? There's a couple of times where he will seem to fumble a ball or not be exactly ready to go when the play starts, but he plays with confidence. It doesn't let him get in his head, and he shoots that ball with confidence too. I mean, especially as of late. So it's cool to see. He's given them something to think about, right? Which I think if you're in his shoes, that's all you can do. As you said, Walker, kind of a throw-in on that trade and really giving the Hornets something to think about with his play. I mean, playing over some of the guys they actually did draft at times here. So, I mean, good for Svi. And he has helped the team at least score and win some of these games here in the last week or two.
What do you think, Doug, about old Svi Mykhailiuk?
Well, he showcased pieces of his game that I don't think anyone was aware that he had. I mean, I didn't know that the Svi could go in reverse. He keeps doing these reverse layups that look like way more athletic than you would assume that Svi Mykhailiuk would be, but he's knocking them down. He had that one weird transition opportunity where he just looked into the rearview mirror a little too much, and instead of just going up strong, decided to go up real weak with it, and it was terrible and missed a layup by a mile.
Yes.
And ever since then, it's like something clicked with him, and he was like, all right, no, I'm taking it to the hole, I'm taking it strong, and I'm going to make it happen. And Svi has been a real steadying, relatively veteran presence on a very young Hornets team. I mean, you have to look at the situation and go, wow, it would be apocalyptic if Svi weren't involved here. Like, somebody has to score when you're missing, 8 of your top rotation pieces to various injuries. Somebody's got to take the shots. And these games would not be 20-point blowouts. They would threaten to be 40-point blowouts. And when you're in that situation, when you're getting beaten so handily, it would be incredibly difficult to really evaluate any of your young players at that point. So I think Svi has to be commended for sort of holding this ship together here as we approach the end of things. And look, I think he would be a relatively cheap add if the Hornets did want to look at maybe one more year of Svi. And we're talking about, 13th, 14th, 15th guy on the roster, right? I mean, you're not talking about Svi having this role that he has right now moving forward. That's not what you want. You have more talented, better physically players on your roster that you can go to once they're healthy. But he would be a good depth piece at probably $1.5 million, $2 million for another season. I mean, I think that's doable even within the context of what their salary structure is right now.
Well, and I mean, we can explore that too, because he's making 1.8 right now. So if he's 1.5 to 2 million, it'd be the exact same thing that he's making currently on the Hornets roster, 1.836 if you want to be exact. He's 25 years old too, so I think that's something that's helping him right now is the fact that he's the oldest player in the rotation as it currently stands, and actually by a decent amount. Kai Jones, Mark Williams, James Bouknight. If you're talking about maybe a Kobe Simmons, then they're a little bit closer in age there, but Kobe Simmons isn't a real part of the rotation, having just come up here recently and only playing 2 minutes the other night. So I think the age helps too, just having all that experience within the NBA when you're talking about a lot of first and second year guys really getting the rest of the minutes because your top 7 players are out. Hell, even if PJ Washington was out there on the court, PJ would be younger than what Svi is right now. So I actually think the experience helps. This is not something where I'm going to be clamoring to sign Svi. I don't mind at all if they want to go in a different direction. And even if I thought Svi might be a tiny bit better player, I would imagine they might use that roster spot for somebody younger, has more potential down the road, a little more talented, whatever. So it's nice to experience what Svi is giving in the Doug Branson context of it would be apocalyptic if he wasn't scoring. But at the same time, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be clamoring for him to stay on this roster. What about you, David? How much would you like to see him here in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think to Doug's point, it's a nice guy to have at the end of your bench, at the end of that, way down that rotation almost. But I mean, that's the tricky thing about this time of year, which seems to come around often for the Hornets. It's like, how exactly do you evaluate these guys, the guys that are playing, the guys that are out on the floor when these lineups are just so wacky? I mean, they are not starting NBA lineups out there that he's playing with, which, you could say, hey, given that, maybe it's even more impressive. But I think he's shown enough to be in the consideration and to have a nice deal. I don't know that he's going to be a building block for this group going forward, and not that anyone's saying that, but what you got, Doug?
Well, we did see Svi contribute in a positive way when this team was healthier. I mean, post-trade deadline, they picked up some significant wins, and Svi played some minutes here and there where you went, hey, look at that. He's coming in, doing a few things, and then leaving. That's kind of what you want out of it, into the bench type piece. And the other thing, too, is that they have lived now through the trauma of this season. And I wonder, just how much that's going to inform what happens next season. Knowing that they've endured all of these injuries, I would think that the organization would put a premium on that 13th, 14th, 15th piece. And knowing that there's somebody with a veteran presence that can step up immediately if you have to go to it. If they do indeed want to try to compete next season, I think that should be important to them. I do have the salaries pulled up just in case you wanted to peruse here. So, Gordon making 31.5, Terry making 23.2. The big thing is Kelly at 16.4 million projected for next season. He's making 12.6 now. Unrestricted free agent. Do they bring him back? You've got the big question mark on Miles Bridges. We don't know if the Hornets are going to bring him back. Who knows what that number would look like? I mean, we thought we had a handle on what the number would be, before everything went down. And the other question is obviously PJ Washington, cleaning the glass, projecting him at 17. We've heard 20. Bottom line is, if they brought all of these end of the bench pieces back, and they've already extended Nick Richards, so that's done. Then Svi, Dennis Smith Jr., JT Thor's non-guaranteed. They brought all of these pieces back. They're right up on the cap space line. And probably, if they bring Kelly, they're over it. They're nowhere near luxury tax, but they could get there depending on, what they accomplished in the offseason. So it's interesting. And you have to factor in, they've got 2 first-round picks. If they make both of those and keep both of those, they've got to add that. That could be potentially another $8 to $10 million.
Well, so and I'd like to, depending on what they'll do with the Denver pick, there's so many different options when you have a pick that late in the first round. And so I don't know what they're going to roll with. I definitely don't want to hear the excuse that Mitch Kupchak gave us last time, where I don't want as many talented young players on the roster because we're going for it. If you're going to trade for a veteran, get a good one. But at the same time, you do have to account for that. David, you were about to say something?
I mean, do you think who gets squeezed out of that situation? Do you guys think? I mean, is it Svi and Dennis Smith Jr.? Is it? I mean, if all these guys come,
that's what I'm saying. If they bring back Kelly Oubre at the expense of Dennis Smith Jr., I don't know what we're doing here. I legitimately don't know what we're doing here.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, and this is what I'm hoping to keep in context with Svi. Like, hey, awesome job, 3 games in a row with double digits. You had about 2 or 3 games beforehand. It's probably not going to be on the team next year. I mean, as far like if we're talking about guys that are being shunned out, where you do have a lot of really tough decisions, Svi is playing for another contract and honestly showing a real, like, I'm not here to just, bleep all over his stat line, but like at the same time, at the end of the bench, you're talking about, I mean, think about what you said, who's getting closed out, Dennis Smith Jr. and Svi. I mean, it's a pretty clear decision between those two you'd keep, right? Like it'd be Dennis Smith Jr. over Svi when you're talking about those 2 guys. And so you do everything you can to keep one. And then you talk about the rookies that are coming aboard. Then you talk about, still, I mean, what is JT Thor's on an accelerator. Bryce McGowan's, he's on an accelerator with his new contract that he signed. So you got to account for a little bit more, right? It's not just staying baseline. I don't know
if Bryce isn't, and Bryce got the extension. So I mean, he's not even on this list, so these numbers aren't quite accurate.
Right.
The bottom line is they're going to be right up against the space, the cap space, and heading towards luxury tax land. But here's what, before we move on, we should all celebrate that this name that's crossed out right here, Nick Batum, and that's that correct. Ghost money coming off the books.
Wow.
We spent $8.9 million as a team on the ghost of Nick Batum. That ghost finally gets exorcised from the books.
Incredible.
Praise be.
Not being talked about enough, in my opinion, as we close out this season. Just putting that to bed, that chapter can now be closed. Really something to be celebrated, I think. I feel like they should have some sort of recognition at the game, maybe a Nick Batum contract night or something. I don't know.
Well, I think maybe at the end of the season, do you guys think we could stretch that on like a $3.3 million deal for 3 years or something? I wonder if we could just keep it apart of the payroll.
Like
I'm just glad Gordon. I'm glad Gordon is somewhat healthy, because I mean there was a real danger that we were going to stretch Nick Batum to bring in Gordon and then have to find a way to deal with Hayward's contract and have that looming over the franchise. I'm just really glad that Hayward seems like he will be able to contribute something next season.
That'd be so Hornets to have the longest stretch provision in NBA history, only to break that record yourself with the next longest stretch provision in NBA history. All right, let's continue on. Coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Doug wants to share his conspiracy theories with David, as well as discuss some new CBA details, just some of the details we did not get to in yesterday's show. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. It's the place for last-minute ticket deals. If you forget planning months in advance, you don't even have to do that if that was a part of your old life. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. You can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and much more. The Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. You can even get images of your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive, and tickets are sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. More Locked On Hornets coming up next.
Is Locked On Hornets.
Adam Silver had Ahmad Rashad up on stage, and he used his phone to body scan Ahmad Rashad, and then they inserted a digital version of Ahmad Rashad into the highlight. And so I'm looking at this and going, just fix my league pass. I don't want to be in a highlight. I would just like to actually watch the highlight without my application logging me out, freezing, dropping all of the time. Fix my league pass before you insert me in the game, please and thank you.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Let's look at some of the new CBA details. Doug, I know we got to the 65-game threshold. We also got to the second-round pick money, not having to deal or delve into the mid-level exception in order to pay some second-round picks. So now you just have the allotment set for your second-round picks, which I know the Charlotte Hornets are going to be happy about. Just based off of some of those, David, did you have any thoughts on the 65-game threshold? I know we kind of talked about that more than any of the other details yesterday, where an individual player has to appear in 65 games in order to be eligible for an individual award, such as MVP, I'm guessing All-NBA selection, Defensive Player of the Year, and stuff like that.
It feels like they're, the governors are trying to, drop the hammer on some of these guys not playing as much without really dropping the hammer or doing a big swing on it. So I don't have an issue really with that. I mean, did you guys have a big problem with guys having to play those 65 games?
No, the only reason for me, it's not like I have a huge problem. I think it's pretty nuanced number where I think it's a lot. I thought maybe you could bring that down, still accomplish your goal of making guys play, and not shun any of the players deserving of some of these individual awards, right? Like Joel Embiid, he's right up against that number. He's going to pass it, but barely so. And so, maybe the idea is that the games that are close, this is going to force him, since he is so close, he'll play some of these games. And there's a lot of players that are under 65 even right now.
Right.
And so for me, I think if we use these tools, and we do use MVPs, first team All-NBA selections all the way down to third team as evaluation pieces for where you rank in the Pantheon. And if we're going to do that, a guy plays in, 58 games, are we going to hold it against him that he wasn't even a third team All-NBA player when he was clearly deserved? And that was the only thing I was talking about.
Yeah,
all right, Doug, you're laughing, and you also have CBA details. What is your laughing detail?
Well, it's an interesting conversation, but the Hornets don't even have anyone that's threatening to be All-NBA at this point. So I don't know how. I mean, hopefully they get LaMelo to that level. And
I was just talking about an NBA perspective. Yes,
yeah,
the Hornets.
For sure.
I'm not saying that LaMelo is going to get cheated by winning MVP because he only played however many games.
Well, from management's perspective, they want to make sure that if somebody's getting all NBA bids and MVP bids, and that's accelerating their contract, that they get their money's worth there in terms of games played. But I think some of the more important stuff that we haven't talked about yet would be, for example, this upper limit on extensions. That was essentially a team could extend their own player and go 120% higher than somebody else could in acquiring that player via free agency. That upper limit now is at 140%. So that's going to give, again, more money for a team to retain their player. Hey, LaMelo eventually will be a restricted free agent, and the Hornets will be in that conversation, or possibly not be a restricted free agent. They could go ahead and sign him up early, and it's just another tool for them. So I don't know, David, how much do you think that will matter ultimately when we get to that conversation, going from 120 to 140% on that upper limit?
Yeah, I mean, when you start talking about millions and millions, right, I think that can only help the Hornets as they try and keep LaMelo in town as long as they can. I mean, to your point, Doug, you're saying before we jumped on, I mean, that's a significant amount, and you'd have to have some serious strife to turn away from that, right? I think if you're a LaMelo Ball or any player, right, who's going to be faced with making that decision, it's got to be seriously wrong on a lot of levels, I think, to turn that down. And so they're just trying to give the teams, another leg up and keeping some of their young talent. I think from a Hornets perspective, it can only help. And that's what you're focused on right now is that LaMelo contract, I think. So, yeah, I mean, that's probably good news for the team, I would say.
Yeah, and if you're making guesses, then you would guess LaMelo stays because to turn down that type of contract extension is unprecedented. We have literally not seen it before. We thought we would get close with the whole Zion saga, but even that didn't happen. Zion stayed with New Orleans. And so you can even Luka, where there were problems at the end of that before you got the contract extension. They got rid of their head coach and did everything they could to try to quote unquote make Luka happy, even if they're in disarray right now. The thing about it is, if LaMelo really wants to leave, he might just be so frustrated with the organization that you have a huge problem where you even add the extra 20 mil on it, and then you could turn it down because you're angry, or you could just not care, which has always been the concern, right? That LaMelo just doesn't care enough. He wants to go all the way across country to LA, which has been more so of an outside thing than it has been from LaMelo, who has said a million times he loves it here in Charlotte. He wants to stay. But if that is the way of thinking, LaMelo wants to go to LA. He has a shoe deal. He has endorsements. He's Hollywood. He appears in AT&T commercials. Yes, you would think, or you might think, that just throwing millions more dollars would help, and I'm sure it doesn't hurt. But if you don't care because you're making a lot of money, then at some point you might just not care. So that would be the only caveat. But at the end of the day, it's all kind of a moot point for me because I think he is going to stay, and I think this only helps the Charlotte Hornets' chances at attaining him and him not being the first guy to ever turn that kind of money down.
Yeah, and it's not going to quiet the folks that cry out for these small market guys to go somewhere and win, right? Like you see this all the time. You see Dame Lillard or whomever. I'm talking about like from a national perspective. You'll get guys chiming in, especially if LaMelo starts to play well, starts getting healthy, and the Hornets continue to lose and don't do anything to take a step up. Those cries are just going to come faster. There's going to be outside noise for him to do that. Not saying that would necessarily impact him or affect things, but that's not going to go away if the Hornets don't improve their overall situation, including LaMelo and their team moving forward.
Well, and that's a next contract problem, right? Like I think that criticism will come in after he would accept the rookie extension anyway.
Yeah, exactly. To me, the rookie extension is about maximizing your ability to make money. And when you're talking about LaMelo, who has already suffered several injuries early in his career, I think that would be smart to make that a priority. Hey, maximize money now, worry about going and winning a championship if that's a concern later on in your career after you've collected as much as possible and maximized it. And also within the CBA now, they're opening up other ways for players to invest in teams through a private equity firm that the NBA is going to choose, invest in gambling opportunities and cannabis opportunities and all of these things, ways for people to make money, for players to make money than they had before. But you got to have money to make money. You got to have money to invest money. And so this opportunity to make more on this upper limit, I think, is going to benefit LaMelo. It's going to benefit the team in terms of bringing him back. The other big thing from the CBA that we haven't discussed yet is the in-season tourney. So this could arrive as soon as the 2023-24 season. It's going to have pool play games baked into the regular season schedule starting in November. 8 teams advancing to a single elimination tournament in December. Final 4 at a neutral site, Las Vegas, in the discussions. And then this is the best part, though. The 2 people who are in the finals, the 2 teams that are in the finals, actually will play an 83rd regular season game. They're adding games. We're asking you to take away games, and you're adding games. What's going on here?
The $500,000 incentive, though, to win, that's going to, I guess that'll help.
Per player. That's not per team. That's $500K per player for the winning team.
Yeah, so they'll be okay. I imagine the load management won't be nearly as bad during the midseason tournament time. Maybe it is for some of the stars, but probably not. Can you imagine where you are a Bryce McGowan's and you're making, what is it, over $1 million now? I guess we still have the payroll, but like you're going to make 50% of your paycheck off of one tournament with it. So that's who it's going to help. That's what's going to be awesome. Is the guys that are going to be on the roster that might not even see much playing time in the midseason tournament, and they're going to get $500,000. That'll be fantastic. That's
why you got to keep Svi. Maybe you win this thing with M-Svi-P.
That's right.
Is there any talk of pooling these dollars together for like a $10 million slam dunk champion purse? No details on that in the CBA. There's no All-Star talk.
I just wish this tournament would mean something. Because I know, as a fan, like I get why a player would be motivated. Hey, I get to win $500,000. What do I get as a fan if they win the tournament? If Charlotte wins this tournament, I get to some pride, I guess. I don't know what I get. There's no incentive for me as a fan to cheer for the Hornets to play an 83rd regular season.
Yeah, time might tell on that. I wonder if we use that as some kind of tool as to, okay, well, they won the tournament. Yeah, I think we would. I think not as some kind of hang the banner type of moment, but it would be, they were playing really well at the midway point of the season. They won the tournament.
That would be so sad if that's a banner that goes up in Spectrum Center.
Doug,
in-season tournament.
Doug, you're a soccer guy, have been for a long, long time.
I know, lifetime soccer fan right here.
Yeah. So, they have this type of things in soccer, right? I hear. I don't know. I'm not a soccer guy. You tell me.
Yeah, and I feel like that's been the big criticism of this whole thing is that, Adam Silver is trying to make basketball into soccer. But the thing with soccer, I feel like, is like that whole idea has been baked in for a long time, and people do take pride in winning those.
Right.
And there is some, a lot of times there's some nationality baked into that too. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Maybe I'm wrong, and then if the Hornets start to make a surprise run in this midseason tournament, then I'll get all giddy. But I'm looking at this from the perspective of does it get me, I don't know, home court advantage in a first round series? Does it get me? I don't know. I feel like there should be some incentive for the team in terms of getting closer to winning a championship that isn't baked in here.
Doug, it would help you get closer to 50 games. Could only help that opportunity. So, you've been a big.
That's true. That's true because the pool games are regular season games, so you got to win those, and that's going. I guess in that way, you are improving your chance to get into the playoffs and get a home court advantage. All right, you sold me. I'm in.
There you go. It was easy enough. All right, we have one more segment to go, but before we get to the last segment, coming up next on the Locked On Hornets podcast.
Don't go to sleep on the Hornets just yet.
Wanted to tell you about the conspiracy theories, and really Doug wanted to tell you about his conspiracy theories. We'll get David's take on all of that. This episode is brought to you by BetterHelp. Getting to know yourself can be a lifelong process, especially because we're always growing and changing. Therapy is all about deepening your self-awareness and understanding, because sometimes we don't know what we want or why we react the way we do until we talk through these things. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist who can take you on that journey of self-discovery from wherever you are. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It is designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Discover your potential with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA. One more segment to go. Locked On Hornets
is Locked On Hornets.
This says the Hornets received 3 votes for their handling of James Borrego, who is viewed as doing a good job the past couple of years before Charlotte fired him after the season. Then hire him. No one's hired him. These GMs are like, oh, we love James Borrego. Oh, you going to hire him? I don't think so. He got blown out twice and played him. You can't hire that guy.
It's time for more of the Locked On Hornets podcast.
David, we had a very important discussion yesterday that you were not a part of. We were talking about DSJ he's questionable, by the way, for tonight's game. He's getting upgraded, might see some DSJ. But on the injury report for a great toe injury, which we all assume is the big toe. And so we had a discussion about the best toe. Do you have a favorite toe?
Oh, it's got to be the big boy for sure. Yeah.
Oh, no, come on.
Although I will say I am partial to the Twin Towers, right in the middle there.
The second toe underrated, right? Because it's the whole. Some of them are longer than your great toe. So
right. Exactly.
No, man, the pinky toe. The pinky toe is the Muggsy Bogues of toes. It plays a lot bigger than its stature would indicate.
Nah, I feel like you could lose
Muggsy
it,
toes.
If you had to pick one to lose, you want to chop off.
That's exactly what I said, David. It's exactly the argument that I had yesterday.
Your balance would be horrible. If you cut your pinky toe off, your balance would be affected.
So which one are you cutting off? The second to last?
Not Muggsy Togues. I'm sticking with Muggsy Togues.
Well, I guess no. Let's talk this out because now I'm intrigued, and I'm sure everyone else is listening and or watching. If you lost
when you lose your balance, let me throw this at you, David. David, let me throw this at you.
Doug needs to fire these toe takes off, David.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
He has to. Go ahead.
When you lose your balance, okay, just think about when you lose your balance. gamenotes. Okay, what toe do you rely on to get it back? It's that you're like, and you're on the side of your foot, and you're going to the pinky.
So if you lost a middle one though, couldn't the other four balance you out? Like if you just lost one in the middle there, don't you think you'd be okay?
And that's what I'm saying. And your pinky toe is going to lead the way.
Yeah, I think it's more the side of the foot, but at least, we discovered it. We went there. We have a couple people that say it's the middle toe and then now the pinky, and now we moved on. It's funny because Doug was like, well, I got something for David out of this. All right, cool. What you got? I did not expect the toe conversation to rear its head, but here it is.
Rear its foot.
Talking. All right, so there's your one question. Okay, I like Muggsy Togs better, but still pretty good. Yeah. All right, let's go to your conspiracy theories, Doug. The conspiracy theory about Nick Richards.
Yeah,
what do you did you want to ask David about?
Yeah.
What the conspiracy theory is that he's hiding it, right? That the Hornets are only now deploying it.
Yeah, they're putting that candle under a bushel. They know that Nick Richards can shoot threes. That shot was too smooth that he put up. Shot clock on his back, calm, just lifted it, looked beautiful. That guy can shoot threes, and we just don't know it because the Hornets have said, hey, a lot like, we get all these stories, and he went to Kentucky. We get all these stories about Calipari saying, hey, we know you can shoot threes, but that's not what we want you to do here. You do the other things until you get to the NBA. Well, I think the Hornets are doing that with Nick Richards. What do you think?
Oh, I can confirm this 100%. I didn't have any tales from the Spectrum Center, but I guess I lied. I was at Shootaround on Sunday, in there a little early for Shootaround.
Intel!
And Nick Richards was firing up some threes, top of the key threes.
Let's go.
I don't remember many of them going in, but he was shooting them. He not to say he didn't make some, but Shootaround's not that interesting. I'll be honest with you. They have like two guys going out at a time. I think it was him and McGowan's. I don't know. But he was out there shooting threes, Doug. So I think that is in his bag.
They're working on it,
as they say. So maybe, but I think it's only smart to hold it out right now.
So now that they got the contract done, now, hopefully now it hurts Nick in that regard. If he would be hitting threes, he'd be making more money. But if you are the Hornets and you were somehow to keep his agent out of this, it would be extremely beneficial for you. And of course, the opposition for not knowing. Now you have another conspiracy theory, Doug, that you wanted to bring to the people.
Yes, it involves Patrick Ewing.
Have you ever shot that shot?
Recently let go from his head coaching position at Georgetown. He used to be on the staff of one Steve Clifford when Clifford was here the first time. Was his not only on his staff, was his associate head coach, and I believe he coached some games as sort of a fill-in head coach for Clifford.
I know Silas did. I don't remember Pat, but maybe he did.
I feel like Pat, maybe it was when Clifford got tossed. There may have been a game or two when Clifford got tossed and Patrick had to step in. I do recall that. That is somewhere in the back of my memory. Anyhow, we speculated on this show before that Patrick Ewing may be in line, for a rejoin into Clifford's staff. But I have a new conspiracy theory because I saw him on the sidelines for not only one, but two games at Spectrum Center, and he was sitting in the seats that are most famous for being Michael Jordan's seats. And we know Jordan right now in talks to sell the team. So I'm wondering, maybe not joining the staff, is Patrick Ewing in line to join Gabe Kaplan's bid here to take over the team? Could Patrick Ewing become a associate governor of the Charlotte Hornets?
Oof. Well, I'm sorry we didn't talk about this last week. We should have gone on our predicting some April Fool's jokes because there was a couple floating around. One was MJ coming out of retirement. One was LaMelo demanding a trade. But what if MJ and Big Pat Ewing, put on some practice uniforms, got out there and showed these guys how it's done, how the old vets used to do it. No, I think you're right, though. I had the same thought when he was in the MJ seat. Maybe he's trying to see how much money he's got in the bank. But I think it'd be cool to see him back on the sidelines with Clifford. I always enjoyed having Patrick Ewing here. He may want to take a little break, though. Maybe he's just, maybe he's on spring break. He just likes to check out the NBA games. He knows he can get a good seat here. I don't know if he's going to join the.
So you're not on board. You're not on board with my theory. No. All right. Well.
Yeah, I wonder how much money Pat Ewing has stored away. I guess he's been making a lot over the years. So hopefully, maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not going to be 30% of the team. But he could just take a stake in the team, get into the ownership game.
I am trying to
back
find and/or confirm your inkling about Pat Ewing filling in for Steve Clifford. There's something from Mitch Lawrence on Daily News about Patrick Ewing might have done that when Steve Clifford was in the hospital for chest pains. I'm trying to find that, but
I'm telling you, I vividly remember a game. I don't think it was multiple games. I really do feel like it was one game. And we were all talking about, hey, because I think on this show we talked about Patrick Ewing has ambitions to be a head coach. This is his opportunity, or this was his opportunity to showcase that. I really remember that vividly.
Okay, so the Hornets have only a few more games left to go. They have a game tonight against Toronto. Is there anything that we just wanted to say we're watching for tonight? Giving the Hornets fans that are the diehards that are still sticking with us as this ugly season does come to an end, what's one thing that you want to pay attention to tonight as they have their second game in a back-to-back home situation, by the way, for the Hornets against Toronto? David, do you have anything that comes to mind?
Now I want to see some Nick Richards threes, maybe, if we can work that in. You're still watching for Mark Williams, I guess. I mean, at this point, it's like a guessing game on who's even healthy, who's going to be playing. That's what you're looking out for. Are the Raps still playing? They still need to stack some wins, right? I think
they're trying to get to a 7-8 spot so that you could possibly, get home court advantage in the play-in tournament. So that's what they're playing for.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's about it for me, guys. Like I said, everyone in that building is really trying to drag themselves across the finish line here. We don't need any more injuries, so let's just play it out. Let's just play hard, guys. And I did
throw David under the bus with that impromptu question at the very end, so I apologize. Doug, you had a little more time to think about that. Did you have anything that you wanted to see? Just one observation that you'd like to take note of maybe tomorrow?
Well, it's Book Night. I mean, does Book Night keep it going? And if he doesn't keep it going, because he's gotten off to two really hot starts, and that's propelled him throughout the rest of the game, right? I'd like to see if Book Night misses a couple of shots, can he start to distribute to others? Can he get back on track? Because early in the season, when he was getting down, he would miss a couple of shots, and then everything would start to snowball on him. Defensively, he would be bad. Offensively, he would be even worse. And so, can he, turn in instead of a 20-point game, can he turn in a 14 and 6 assist type of game where he's moving it to others because he doesn't get off to a great start? And also, I'll throw one more thing at you, Bryce McGowan's. I would love to see, before we get out of here, I'd love to see a Bryce McGowan's 25-point game. Like just a heater
that's
from
what
him.
I was going to say. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
But no, I was going to say Book Night, and then I moved on to 25-point game for McGowan's, a very Svi-like game, and then you went there as well. So I'll go in my third option here to try to give you one of the things to watch in the third to last game of an awful
Kai Jones.
season.
I want to see Kai Jones too.
Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah. Now Russell's coming to mind. I do want to see Kai, some Mark Williams. Go ahead.
No, just give me, better yet, it can be Bryce. I'd love to see it. But give me the young breakout game from whoever. Kai, JT Thor, Bryce McGowan's. JT Thor, I know, he was celebrated by Steve Clifford for doing the little things. He was asked about Xavier Sneed, who went 3 for 3 from three-point land in the last game. And he said he's very like JT Thor in the way where all they care about is doing the little stuff right.
He plays hard. He's physical, man. He's a physical guard. I can see why he's hung around for as long as he has, because he plays. He was a little nervous those first couple of opportunities that he got. You could tell, like, oh, NBA, big lights. It was a little much. But after he settled down, he's a guy that plays hard every minute that he's out on the floor. It was fun to see.
Yep.
Fun to Sneed.
The last you got it in the last 3 games. Just give me the young breakout game from Thor, Jones, McGowan's, the Svi game here with these last 3 opportunities. All right, that's David Walker, the crown prince of the colorway today. Don't know what he's going to be on Tuesday, but I'm sure Doug will cook up something. He's also cooking stuff up on his Substack, everyhornetsboxscore.com. I'm Walker Mail. You can catch me on Sports Radio 92.7 WFNZ from 12 to 3 p.m. Thanks for making us your first listen. We're free and available anywhere you get your pods. Make your second listen game-to-game NBA. It's every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game-to-Game covers every game from across the league with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game-to-Game on Locked On NBA, available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Have a great rest of your day. We'll be back with you tomorrow.